So to start out with, I'm not going to draw out this design like I normally do, just because it's so intricate and it gets kind of confusing. But I do have the traceable for this one. So to start off with, I just used some, I believe it was not ultramarine blue, phthalo blue. Gosh, it's gonna be one of those days, I can tell. So it was phthalo blue and a little bit of white, so it'd show up on this black rock. And the key to doing these feathers is to use a round paintbrush, and then you put the paintbrush down on the surface of the rock, and then you pull towards you, and as you pull towards you, you lift. And that's going to give you that feather shape. It may take a little bit of practice, but you've got a lot of feathers to do, so you'll get it. Just put it down, with a little bit of pressure so that it widens the brush out on the surface of the rock, and then as you pull down, you're going to lift, and that's going to give it that tapered effect. And we're just going to go down the colors. It's going to be blue, then a purple, then a reddish orange, and then yellow. And I'm going to do all of them the same way. As we go down the wing, I am going to lengthen the stroke of the feather. I'm going to, oh my gosh, I'm going to lengthen the stroke for the feathers. Now, if you watched the YouTube video, you know that the peacock, the companion rock to this, was from a design that I did when I was trying to decide what type of tattoo I was going to have on. And I didn't go with that particular design, but I loved that. I did go with a peacock. I do have a very large tattoo down the right hand side of my body. This was the design for the left hand side. This was what I came up with, and this is what I wanted to have on my left hand side of the body. I have not ever done it because my husband is not a big fan of tattoos. So I just never did it. I did my right side I had done right before I met him. And it's also, your side is extremely painful going across your ribs and down your waistline part. It gets very tender. And across the small of your back, the whole thing hurts. So, and a tattoo that size takes, it was like over, let's see, it was, I think 3 hours each session. I did 3 hours for the black and 3 hours for the color. So that's a lot. It's a lot to take. I'm personally glad I did it, and who knows, I may still get the phoenix on the other side. I don't know, one day, maybe. I'm getting kind of old. Maybe kind of ridiculous at this point for me to get one. I don't know. Anyway, back to to this rock. You can see how sometimes when I do my stroke, it ends up blunt. I didn't lift fast enough. So if that happens to you, just paint over it. Don't let trying to figure this brush stroke out, don't let that stress you out. Just keep working on it. Work on it on a piece of paper if you want to before you try to tackle the rock. Do a couple practice strokes. You'll get it. It's not hard. So I'm just going in and kind of darkening. I guess I'm darkening the purple, adding a little bit. I think I'm adding like a darker blue transition between the light blue and the purple. So now I'm taking some red and see how I'm going just at the top of the orange feathers. I want there to be a red there. This is just straight, like a dark red that's more on the blue shade. Now I am going to go over all of this with the Pearl X powders, which is linked below in the description under metallic powders, I believe. This is a section it's under. You don't have to do the powders if you don't want to. Just leave it painted. It'll still be beautiful without the powders. This color is the Hooker's Green with a little white added to it. And when you're doing the body, I want it to look kind of streaky. That's going to give the indication of these long feathers. You don't want to paint it in all solid. Every time you reload your brush, add a little bit more green or a little bit more white. You want to change up the color just a little bit, and you want the paint to look a little streaky. So now we're going in and adding they're kind of an orangish red feathering down at the end of the body before it transitions to the tail. And you want to just feather that up into the green. See, now I'm bringing the green back into you want the red or the orangish red, whatever that color is, bring some of that up the body just a little bit, just one or two kind of glazed paint up into the body so that it kind of transitions smoothly. Not, when I say transitions, not transitions like a blend, but just where the colors kind of, you don't want just a solid line of green and then a solid line of red. You want them to transition smoothly. So you want some of the red up in the green and some of the green down in the red. Now for the tail, I'm also doing kind of feathering strokes that come outside the line of the tail. So you want to feather, see how I'm just kind of wisping it outside the line. So think of like a feather boa, the way they're wispy looking. That's kind of the look I wanted for this tail. And I paint this kind of fast because I'm used to these different paint strokes, but if you're not, slow way down and do more deliberate paint strokes. And these are all the same color. They're all just this phthalo blue and a white mixture. But you can use whatever colors you want. This is just what I chose. I try to paint with the same colors all the time so that you don't feel like you need to own, you know, 1,000 different colors of paint. I pretty much have the same colors I always use. Every once in a while, I'll throw in other things, but I try to keep it as limited. I could really back it down to the primary colors in black and white and do this same thing. It is a little easier to have a couple more colors than just your primaries, but if you want to learn color mixing, just start with your primary colors and then try to make all these colors using just those three. That'll really teach you color mixing. So now I'm just kind of glazing on some color. Well, that's not even glazing on, that's just mixing between red and orange. I was going back and forth with the colors. Like I said, the color transition, you don't want it to be like this line of color. So I'm just kind of throwing in some orange and throwing in some red and letting it just kind of mix on the body. Now these are some little tassel-y things that hang off the body. I'm kind of going in and modifying like the feathers that they're hanging on to. I didn't want it so obvious as it was when there was feathering coming off of those lines. I didn't care for it. And then I am going to go in and outline the design, but then we're going to lose a lot of those black lines when we add the Pearl-Ex. So I wanted the hint of some of the lines, but then I ended up covering up a lot of them with the Pearl-Ex. So if you're not going to do the Pearl-Ex, I don't know if I would outline it. I probably wouldn't. So that this is purple that I'm actually using here to resemble a peacock feather. The purple just does not show up well on my camera sometimes. And now I'm just kind of shading underneath the body and where the tail feathers overlap each other. Now I'm taking, this is just pink, and going inside the little, it's like a paisley shape, and adding the pink. And adding a little bit more red to the body. So I decided I painted in the little tassels, and then I'm going to add, I changed them I think from red to pink so they would match the tail better. I don't think it really matters. whatever color you want to put on there. And apparently I've bumped my camera, my palette camera at some point. And I'm using my Liquitex black airbrush paint to do the eye. It's also what I will outline the body with. Now here I'm outlining, and I'm using a very thin paintbrush for this. Like I said, if you're not going to add the Pearl-X to your rocks, I don't think I would skip this step. I did it because I was going to add the Pearl-X, and I wanted some of these lines to show up. So I knew some would show up and some would be covered by the pearl powder, mica powder stuff. So but it didn't need it if you're not going to do the pearl powder. Unless you like the way it looks. I personally don't on this particular rock. And you know I'm a big fan of outlining stuff. This design's a little bit more intricate, and so therefore I don't really like the outlining, the solid outlining. This is the part that I really don't like. But like I said, I knew that the powder would cover up, you know, 70% of these lines. I don't mind the hint of lines here and there. I just didn't want this much. But if you are going to go over it with the pearl powder, don't freak out at this stage because I knew what I was doing here. But if you haven't done a lot of rocks like this, uh, you can be like, oh, I just screwed this all up. But you haven't. It's going to be fine. Even if you did this and you weren't going to put the powder on and you decided you didn't like it, just paint the wings over again. If you can paint it once, you can definitely paint it twice. Now I'm adding some shading where the wing meets the body. And the sparkle to the eye. And then we should, from here, there we go, start adding the powders. So I had to go through and pick out the powders I wanted. I used the Pearl X. There's a set of them that I bought off of Amazon. I do have those linked below. I think it's like a set of, I don't know, 24 or 30, 36 seems like that's a lot. But it's a big set. And every color in the set matched one of the colors of the paints that I used. So there's definitely a large variety of colors in that set. Now I added water to the lid because there's enough paint in the lid. Well, for the blue there wasn't. I did have to dip into the actual container. Normally there's enough in the lid, but you want to water it down just a little bit and make like a thin paste, like paint consistency, and then paint this on. Otherwise, if you don't wet it down, it's going to be everywhere all over your rock, and it's not going to stick as well. And in the video, it's hard to see. You can't really make out the pearlescence. It's, it still looks kind of flat, but it is definitely there, especially once you seal the rock. I use triple thick to seal my rocks, and you can definitely see the pearl powder. It looks really pretty. And these two rocks together, the peacock and this phoenix, look really good together. I keep these all in a bin, and I have a bin next to me, and so in case I want to add another color. So this is just a purple. And I just mix the water right in the lid. But you don't want it too watery. You kind of want it, you don't want like a thick paste, but you know, you want a thinner paste consistency so that it's thick enough to cover the rock, to cover the paint on the rock. And I did every inch of this except the beak and the eye. Some of the colors are kind of close. I had to decide which one I wanted to use. Well, you'll see as I start painting this, some of the black lines are going to show and some of them aren't. And some of them it really mutes it down. So you get a hint of it, and you can barely see it. It just adds some definition to the wing. Well, I guess that adds definition to the whole design because I did outline the whole design. The wings are the only ones that we put a lot of black in the design. Now I'm taking some gold. Some of these colors are really strong. That gold was really pretty. And it's hard to tell. I do wrap these wings. The tip of the wings are wrapped around the side of the rock. Now I'm going to bring some of this mica powder up into his chest area. And again, that's just going to help with the transition between the colors. And it's like a dusting of it up into the chest area. See, that's where I'm bringing, see how I'm getting into some of that rust color and I'm pulling it. Well, I guess I'm going to do it here again. Pulling up and just dusting a little bit up into the chest and head area. Very lightly. I think I'm going to sign my name. Yeah. Then I'm going to take some of my background black and I'm just going to clean up. There were some tassels that I had that came down around the tail that I decided not to do. So I got to cover up all those pencil lines and just clean up the design overall. So, and that is about it. And then I'm going to show you what it looks like all shiny. This is just one coat of the clear. Like I said, I use the triple thick clear coat. I usually do 2 coats of it. So this is just one coat while I let that dry. But see, I think you can kind of make out the shininess of the pearl powder. So anyway, I want to thank you so much for your support, and I will see you in the next video.